How's it going, YouTube? Oxa here, and welcome back. As promised, today will be the end of an era. Today I review Gamera 3. The Revenge of Iris. So, I mean, here, make sure to stay tuned to the end to see what I rate it, because it's a complicated one, to say the least. But yeah, Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris premiered in 1999, so 3 years after Gamera 2 Attack of Legion. And yeah, I'm just going to get into a little plot summary, and then of course I'll give my pros and cons and my final rating. So, story, just like in real time, within the lore, right? Story takes place 3 years after Attack of Legion. Gaios have returned. Essentially like a new subspecies. They call them like hyper Gaioses. But essentially, you know, they're back causing trouble, right? And of course, Gamera is there to stop them and, you know, defeats them. Standard fare, right? But the issue being is like, what I appreciate about the film, honestly, is like we get a different perspective in the sense that we actually see like the human side, like what would a monster attack be like, you know, like what would that, how would that feel like, because we're introduced to our new character, our new main, if you will, Ayanna Hirosaka, and basically, you know, to put it bluntly, it's like her family dies. They were there during the Attack of Legion, and you know, her dad was like put her in the car and went to get the rest of the family, and they died, you know, because of Gamera and like the fight. They were crushed, so they died. So Ayanna has like a hatred for Gamera, which is a nice like dynamic, you know, because obviously Gamera has always been portrayed as like the friend of children, right, like the guardian of the universe. So it's nice to see that, right, like, because you have to think about it realistically. It's like a monster, yeah, it would be like there's good and bad to it. And oh, I guess I should also mention that Nagamine returns. Dr. Nagamine. I mean, like I said in the last review, it's like it was a shame she didn't come back for Legion, but she's back. So, you know, that's good to see. Osaka returns, and he actually plays like an important role. You know, he's not just like a comic relief. I mean, yes, like throughout the film, throughout the trilogy, Osaka, his gag is always that, you know, no matter how he tries to run from the monsters, like he's always, it's like his destiny always crosses with them, right? And just like in this film, he's a bum now, and you know, of course, Gaios' attack, and he's there in the initial attack, but and yeah, those are returning casts, and we have new characters, which we'll get into a bit later. So Gamera fends off the Gaioses on, like, you know, attacking like Japan, but of course there's a lot of casualties, and to the general public, it's like it wasn't known, or the Gaioses were like, the focus wasn't on them, it was more on Gamera, so it made Gamera appear in like a negative light, right? Like, you know, like he's a monster rampaging, and it's like, you have that introduce of like, is he our friend, you know, or are we like, you know, is he our enemy? And yeah, Ayane, like I said, she hates Gamera, and we're introduced to like, I guess one of the new characters, a side character, is like a friend, just like a local is a boy. I mean, hey, maybe you could argue love interest. I mean, not really, but you get the idea. And essentially, in the town, there's a shrine, a temple that the boy's family guards, like his grandma, and then it's passed down to him. And essentially, it's like local legend is like speaks of a monster that like could, you know, like cause the end of the world, right? And Ayane just, you know, stumbles upon it, goes inside, and, you know, you see that there's an egg. And eventually it hatches, right? And that is Iris, what we get to know as Iris, which she goes back, because of course it's like, it's a cliche, like she shows up, you know, and then they're like, oh, you can't be here, you know, don't come back. She comes back, of course, and the egg hatches, and then we're introduced to Iris, who's like this. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I don't know, like an octopus with a shell, like a snail. Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's like an octopus and a snail put together. That's Iris, and the name she gave, Iris, she got that from her cat. Like I said, her family was killed, so was the cat, and its name was Iris, so that ties in. But yeah, essentially, she starts raising it, or like her and the boy, like the boy's like, whoa, what the, stumbles, like they see it, they're all surprised, and it starts to grow, and she starts to build a bond with it, much like Asagi Kusanagi, which she returns as well, just like she did with Gamera with the pendant, right? Same thing. Iris has a pendant of its own as well, and Ayanna is like, they're building a bond just like them, but it's revealed throughout the film that Iris is like almost like parasitic, where it's like in a literal sense, it's like they're trying to build a bond, like they're trying to put themselves together, or like he's trying to like absorb her, like it's really like the tentacle monster, if you will, right? But yeah, as that's going on, the military is like just discussing like how to deal with Gamera, because he's considered a threat now. And Nagamine is brought back on board, like to figure out what's going on with the Gaioses, with Gamera, everything. She stumbles upon Osako. Like I said, he's a bum now, and essentially it's like it's a nice like resolve for the character, how he was like this proud man, like an inspector, and he fell from grace, and obviously like became like a night security, and now to being a bum, and then he just realizes that like I can't keep running from my duty, like the monsters, they just keep coming, so he decides to work with her. I mean, unofficially, right? He's not an inspector anymore, but he's back, back on the team. So it's nice to see that, that's good, like character development. I appreciate that. And yeah, essentially Iris grows. He actually escapes the shrine, like, and he attempts to merge with Ayane, which weirdly enough she's like okay with. I didn't get that. Like, it was weird. I mean, it's established that they're like, she relates to him because they're like, alone, you could say. They both are. But yeah, he like cocoons her. The boy saves her, like breaks her out without realizing that Iris was there. And like Iris is attracted to her because they built the bond. And so he breaks out, grows, right, like to the form we know, attacks a village, actually like kills people. That's one thing about this film I like, is like it is a grittier take. I mean, here, as gritty as you can get with the giant flying turtle, right? Like, but it is like a grittier story, and I appreciate that. Like, it doesn't shy away from that. Like, there's scenes where Gamera like breathes a fireball, and you actually see people die. Like, you see the people like in the fire. I appreciate that. It's more believable, right? More realistic. Because you have to think, like, when monsters are destroying cities, obviously there's gonna be like casualties, right? It's like the reality of things. But yeah, Iris grows, and this is where the other new characters come in. First we have Miss Asakura, or Mito Asakura, who's like, they say is a fortune teller. Like, the government is like, oh, she's a fortune teller. And then Kurata Shinya, who, funny enough, is like, this movie has like a Dreamcast like ad, how like Transformers had like Mountain Dew and everything. Product placement. Like, yeah, they had a Dreamcast ad, which, hey, it does tie in. Again, 99 was the release of the film, and hey, for those who know, 99, that was the release of the Sega Dreamcast, the start of the 6th generation, the best generation of consoles, mind you. Anyways, I digress. Kurata Shinya, he's first like a game developer. Like, he sent Nagamine like a disc, and he made a game, and that's where we're introduced to like mana, which, yeah, mana, like that's like the life force, chi, whatever you will, right? It's always like there's like a life force within the world. And Gamera's like, of course, man-made. And and then at the beginning of the film, it was revealed that Gamera wasn't the first. There was like, he's like the final product, because in the first film, he was man-made, right? We found that out. Same with Gaios. And there's a graveyard of like previous Gameras, or like the betas, if you will, right? And this Shinya character and Asakura are like, they work together. It's crazy. They're like in some cult, like Satanist shit. Like, they're like essentially Iris, they believe, is like some god, like of death or something. And they're trying to cleanse like the world. Like, they're really like fanatical. Like, they believe that Gamera is like, yes, he's a vessel, right? Because he was man-made. He's essentially like the guardian, like how you build a bond. But to their idea, Gaios is like the Earth's immune system, and like humans are the disease, right? So it's like, it's better that we like just go extinct, essentially. And since Gamera's our protector, he's essentially like the thing holding back like the apocalypse or whatnot, right? And Iris is believed to be like, yeah, like an angel of death type of situation, and they worship him. But essentially, Shinya sent the disc to Nagamine, and like Osaka's there, of course, and that's where they're introduced to mana, which again, like in Attack of Legion, they put together that like, when Gamera did the big beam blast to defeat Legion, it was like he was calling upon the mana of the earth. Gamera's truly a pure strength build, poised for days. But yeah, so mana's introduced, and yeah, essentially it's like Gamera feeds off of it, and it's like, again, representing like the symbiotic relationship, just like with humans. And they kidnap Ayanna. Oh yeah, because like I said earlier, Ayanna was like cocooned. Like, Iris tried to bond with her, but the boy saved her, and they essentially like kidnap her. Like, she's taken to the hospital, but they Asakura and Shinya take her to like their little bunker. Like I said, it's like some cult ritual. They got like writings on the wall, and there's like a prophecy, and through that, Asakura, like, with Ayanna's pendant, she like could see what Iris like feels, or like essentially because Iris feeds off of Ayanna's hatred for Gamera, like, because obviously she wants like Gamera to be no more. He killed her family, and yeah, so Nagamine and Osako, obviously they find them, and for some reason, like, the two, Shinya and Miss Asakura, are like fine with it. Like, they even go with them, like Ayanna, all of them, they're all together, Asagi, and it's like, it's really weird. That did confuse me. It's like, it's weird that they're just like okay with it. Well, okay, no, actually no, it makes sense. So essentially, Iris is like coming for Ayanna, like, again, to bond with her. He's coming to Kyoto, where she is at the time. The crew, right? Everyone's there. And Gamera appears, obviously, to fend Iris off. And the military attacks Gamera again, because he was deemed a threat. And yeah, we get into like our final battle, Gamera versus Iris. And yeah, Iris pretty much like just beats down on Gamera, like cuts him open, like he's bleeding out and stuff, like pierces him like, in the side, and like, yeah, Gamera's pretty much left for dead. And again, like the two occult people, right? Because Ayanna like is willing to bond with Iris, they take the pendant from her and are essentially like trying to do it for themselves, like to their god. They even name him like Nyaogi. It's like something like that, but like, again, like a god of death. But they die, both of them. So it was all for naught, right? And Ayanna is successfully merged. Like, she gets like sucked in. And again, film was 99, so CGI isn't the best. But yeah, she gets sucked in. And then we have like a weird like dream sequence where it's like, it's revealed to her like when Iris, like, he was killing off people, like even like her new family. It's like he's like a mirror of her. Like, he reflects her emotions, her motivations, right? And then obviously she regrets it, but she's inside him and she's like, no, I'm falling, like, you know, like maybe dying even. But that's when Gamera comes through last second, pulls a Kano, rips her out, like, you know, fatality. Just, it's pretty nice. Like, for the little practical effects around the film, it was nice. And then, so again, Gamera's losing, right? Iris has him pinned down, and he's like sucking like the energy, because that's like Iris does, right? Like he like takes like energy. Like it's also believed that Iris is like an evolution of Gaios, like, you know, the evolution to defeat Gamera. And of course he's like stabbed in Gamera's hand, and it's like, oh, what's Gamera gonna do? Dude just cold-blooded blows his own arm off, like, you know, cuts his hand off, Luke Skywalker. And man, like, this scene was hyped up. I mean, for the little that Gamera's in the film, it was just dope. Like, so you know, hand in this hand, this bloody hand, he's got Ayanna that he ripped out of Iris. He's missing his hand. Iris is building energy like fireballs. Gamera like absorbs it, makes a fire fist, and just Falcon punches him, and that's it. He defeats Iris, like he's dead. And then there's like a little scene where Ayanna is like questioning, like, why did Gamera save me? You know, it's like, you know, because obviously she hated him, like, but yet he's still like, you know, being a giant monster, he was selfless and like, saved her. And the film ends on a cliffhanger with essentially like Ayanna redeemed, you know, the bad guys died, and everyone's just like the military's informed that all the Gaioses have been appearing around the world, and they're converging to Japan because of the mana again. It's like all the monsters are tied to like this energy, and I think Japan was like it was a low point. Like there, like, it was confusing. I'll admit, like what the mana played into it, but yeah, they're all. It's essentially like a swarm of Gaioses. They say like easily, like, just a lot, like over 1,000 or something are coming. And Gamera's there to fight, and yeah, it's just like the final standoff, if you will. And we end with like Gamera just in the burning city, right? Like in Kyoto, destroyed, just ready for his duty, you know? And like just ready to fight, even if he has to do it alone. But of course, the military's on his side, and yeah, that's the end to this trilogy. And I don't know, I liked it. Great movie, honestly. But that's the thing, when it comes to rating it, it's pretty hard. I mean, it's just difficult, because on the one hand, like, if as a kaiju fan and as like if you've seen the trilogy, it's top notch. I mean, easily like 9 out of 10, maybe even higher. But as a casual, or like if this is the only film you see, it's hard, because you come to obviously a kaiju film for the monsters, right? And admittedly, Gamera and Iris are like not in it for long, or like they don't do much. It's more like the human story. And of course that's like, you know, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. So in that aspect, I'd probably say it's like a 7 out of 10 for a casual. But for a fan, I think it's a solid 9. And like pros and cons, I mean, pros, like I said, the story is easily the best. It's like the most thought out, fleshed out, like, again. And if you're like Osako, for example, it's like there's character development. Like, it's the best story flat out. But I mean, cons, you just also have like being 99, most of the effects are CGI, so to today's standards they're dated. You know, it looks like a PS2 game, right? But I mean, the film could be forgiven for that. Again, 99, so it's like, what could they do? And yeah, I mean, lack of monsters, or like, you know, of appearance, you could say. But pros, I mean, I think it's just a great story, and I like the different approach, honestly. I just appreciate that they weren't scared to take risks to be like a little darker, you know? Like, I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts on the film. I mean, it's a hard one to rate. I'll definitely say that. It is like, you have to take into account like the different perspectives. But that's it, guys. That's the Gamera trilogy all wrapped up. I mean, and that was like his last hurrah. I mean, Gamera 3 was followed up by Gamera the Brave in 2006, but it's like another reboot. It is not connected to this trilogy, and that's the last we've seen of Gamera. You know, 2021. 15 years later, nothing. I mean, you know, the Kadokawa Corporation, who own Gamera now, I mean, hey, it'd be nice to see another film. I mean, the Heisei trilogy was really like a high point, so it'd be nice to see another one. But yeah, guys, I had a lot of fun doing this. You know, just movie reviews, and I mean, let me know. Give me your feedback. I mean, do you enjoy it? Would you like to see me do more? Maybe some Godzilla films. You know, let me know. I had a lot of fun with this trilogy, and overall, like, just as a movie fan, I recommend it. I recommend all three. I think it's a great, as like its own thing. I think it's enjoyable. But yeah, guys, that was just my review, my thoughts on the film, plot overview, all of that. Let me know what you thought. Did you agree, disagree? And yeah, be on the lookout for new videos every Tuesday and Saturday. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good jazz. And thank you. You know, thank you really for watching. As always, I've been your host, Soxy. Take care.